Thank you, Chairman, and I'd like to welcome this bill and welcome the passage of it through the Dáil. I think this bill is an important bill which has the potential to make Irish public life more transparent and accountable. The bill encapsulates the new approaches introduced by the government to the legislative process. The legislative journey of the lobbying bill didn't just begin on its publication on Friday the 20th of June of this year. Back in 2012, the Government Reform Unit of the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform commenced reviews of the international approaches to regulating lobbying. This involved significant consultations. Then in April of 2013, the Government approved the drafting of the bill and the general scheme of the bill was published. And this was in turn examined by the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Finance, Public Expenditure and Reform, which held hearings on the bill as part of the new pre-legislative scrutiny stage. All of this points to a desire for greater transparency and accountability. To be clear, I welcome the bill. I welcome the aims and the ideal contained within it. However, the bill gives rise to a number of issues. One is the role of a TD in the close proximity of a public representative in Ireland to the electorate. This proximity is one of the main positives of the PRS TV electoral system. The bill will mean that a person with more than 10 employees will have to declare itself and register as a lobbyist, even if it is only contacting the local TD about a problem such as an access road to a business. Now, well, that's my interpretation of the bill anyway, which is of concern. I mean, you know, if you have a business that's employing a number of people that wants to go to the local councillor, local TD or local minister and say, you know, there's a bad bin down there on the road, trucks cannot come up or trucks cannot come down, is that lobbying? Do they have to register? It's not only it's an important matter for them, it's not some large issue that's in the public interest, but my reading of the bill is that it would have to be declared. A lot of companies, a lot of business people are sort of private, they don't want to declare if they have political allegiance, they don't want to say that they went to local Fine Gael or local Fianna Fáil or local Sinn Féin or local Labour councillor or TD or minister. And that's just a concern that I have, that do they have to register this when it's not, it's a big issue for them, but it's not a huge issue in the public interest. It's a safety issue predominantly in that manner, or something that could improve their business. Another issue is how problematic the definition of lobbying is. Of course, lobbying includes efforts to influence the policy process, legislative action, or government action. But the term lobbying can be viewed through a much wider lens. Government policy is influenced by public opinion. Public opinion is influenced by a myriad of opinion pieces, newspapers, online news sites, TV or radio. Almost all such actions seek to influence government policy in some way, and therefore is this activity not lobbying? Another activity which could definitely be described as lobbying is philanthropy. There are many organisations in Ireland and abroad which are shaping or influencing, or certainly attempting to influence public and government policy. The majority are very dedicated about their bona fides, and their bona fides could not be questioned. And whether or not I agree with the aims of the organisations is secondary. The wealthy individuals funding these groups and organisations are lobbying and trying to shape society in a way that they see fit. This is lobbying. But only the organisations, not the funders, would have to declare and register as part of the bill. There are other areas about the bill that I would hope will be addressed as it continues this legislative process. And these include grassroots lobbying. You know, in other countries they can be exempt by whether it be grassroots lobbying or lobbying by religious organisations. It's not considered lobbying for the purposes of making a return in the United States. Now, they have a huge lobbying industry, but they do have exemptions for certain areas like this. And a similar situation exists in Australia, certainly within the provinces, whatever, but at federal level. So, you know, does every group, every, you know, organisation that are part of a charity or whatever have to register every time they meet a TD? In terms of exempted developments, the following are exempted, and it says communications by or on behalf of an individual relating to his or her private affairs about any matter other than the development or zoning under the Planning and Development Act, or any land apart from the individual's private principal residence. Now, zoning has been an issue. We have a long history in this country and a long problematic history in this country regarding zoning. As a former councillor, you could be in favour, and I would have been in favour of many zonings myself in my time as a councillor. You would be supportive of a particular zoning. without ever having met somebody. But then you meet an owner or somebody, or an engineer on behalf of a landowner, and that's fine, that has to be registered under the bid. You subsequently support that zoning. You were going to support it anyway. You feel it's right for a town or village. It doesn't have to be residential, it could be industrial, it could be enterprise and industry, it could be other things. Is the public perception suddenly that because you met with an engineer or the landowner and you then voted for the bill, the public perception is you were in some way bought off, or you voted this way because you were lobbied? In many cases, you voted this way because you felt it was the right thing to do for your town or your village. You would have voted that way in any case. So it's just a concern about that. The second exemption is communications by or on behalf of an employer with not more than 10 employees relating to the affairs of the employer about any matter other than the development or zoning of land under the Planning and Development Acts 2014. Now, that's very broad. Other than zoning, and that's fine in planning. Again, you could have somebody that wants to put on an extension to their business, and they want to, they want to meet to discuss a planning application. Again, similar comments that I've made earlier, they don't want to show their allegiances. They don't want to state that they went to the local party representative. The ultimate, if they choose not to go down that line, do they just say, right, I'm not going to bother going through with this development or not? So I just have a concern about that. And I mean, any company more than 10 employees, so if you have 11 employees and you want to talk to your local representative about something, that has to be registered. I just have a concern about it. And finally, just relevant matters under the bill, under section 5.7, relevant matters relating to the initiation, development, and modification of any public policy or any public program, the award of a grant, loan, or other financial support. Does a sports group looking to speak to you about a sports capital grant? Does your local board of management looking to speak to you about putting on an extension to your school? Are all these covered under relevant matters? So there's still a lot to tease out as this bill goes through the processes. Overall, I welcome the thrust of the bill, but there are a lot of things yet to sort out.
Thank you, Deputy.